take a second to subscribe to this channel. I share true confessional stories, the kind people don't tell at dinner tables or in polite company. If you listen until the end, you'll understand why your comments matter to me more than you know. They keep me honest. They remind me I'm not alone in the aftermath. My name is Melline Maddie Carter, and if I could erase a single night from existence, it would be this one. For 12 years, I was married to a man people trusted on instinct. Ethan Riley had that effect. He was tall in a way that made rooms feel smaller, solid in a way that suggested permanence. His hands were steady, capable hands, the kind that fixed loose cabinet doors, rewired lamps, held our son's bike upright until confidence replaced fear. His laugh filled spaces before he did, and when he kissed my forehead every morning, it felt like a promise he renewed daily without being asked. On slow Sundays, he brought me coffee before I even woke up. He remembered anniversaries, not because of reminders but because dates mattered to him. He smelled like laundry soap and cedar and home. From the outside, our marriage looked like proof that love could mature without spoiling. From the inside, I was quietly hollow. Not angry, not abused, just empty in a way that felt shameful because I had no justification for it. I loved Ethan. I truly did. But somewhere along the years, love had turned into something careful and preserved, like an heirloom kept behind glass. I didn't know how to tell him I felt myself fading without sounding ungrateful. I didn't know how to admit that safety, when paired with silence, can begin to feel like suffocation. The night everything changed began innocently. That's the most dangerous part. It was a high school reunion on a rooftop bar in downtown Atlanta. String lights draped lazily overhead, live jazz floating between conversations, the air thick with perfume, laughter, and nostalgia that hadn't yet curdled into regret. Ethan was in New York meeting investors. He hugged me goodbye that morning, told me to have fun, told me he trusted me. That trust followed me all night like a shadow I pretended not to see. Old friends arrived. People I hadn't thought about in years laughed like no time had passed. Stories resurfaced. Versions of myself I barely recognized were reflected back at me, brighter and less burdened. And then I saw Logan Hale. My first mistake masquerading as a memory. Logan had been my high school almost, my songwriting partner, my reckless infatuation, the boy who taught me how quickly attention could feel like destiny. Time had changed him. He was broader now, older, with a sadness behind his eyes that softened his grin instead of dimming it. When he smiled at me, something loosened in my chest that had been clenched for years. We talked. Too easily. We laughed about things no one else remembered. His hand found my waist in a way that felt practiced, familiar, wrong. I knew I should leave. I told myself I would. After one more drink, one more song, one more memory. I didn't leave. There was a hotel room. One door closing. One choice I cannot dress up as romance. It wasn't love. It wasn't fate. It was a moment of being seen colliding with weakness. And when it was over, it didn't feel intoxicating. It felt like being swallowed whole, and then discarded. The morning after, guilt hit me with physical force. I burned the clothes I'd worn. I cried until my chest ached and my throat felt raw. I told myself this would stay buried. That shame could be contained if I refused to give it air. I was wrong. Secrets are alive. They breathe. They leak. And sometimes they come knocking. 3 days later, my phone buzzed with a message that made my hands go cold. You're not as good at hiding things as you think. Attached were photos, blurry, cruel, undeniable. Me and Logan in an elevator. Close enough to condemn. A second message followed immediately. You will do exactly what I say, or your perfect husband sees everything. That was the moment fear became something I could taste. At first, the demands were small. Withdraw cash. Cancel plans. Delete accounts. Each instruction felt humiliating, but compliance felt like survival. I obeyed because fear presents itself as the only medicine that works. Ethan noticed me shrinking. He asked if I was okay. I lied about stress, about obligations, about exhaustion. My stomach clenched around the truth that could obliterate our family with a single forwarded message. Then the tone changed. Meet me Saturday night. No phone. Wear something pretty. I thought about the police. But how do you explain that you cheated and now someone owns the proof? Shame sealed my mouth. Silence felt easier than confession. The meeting place was a dark parking lot behind a coffee shop. My hands shook so badly I almost dropped my keys. When a car pulled up and the window rolled down, my blood ran cold. It was Ryan Whitman, our neighbor. The man who mowed our lawn when Ethan traveled. The man who smiled too easily. The man who once carried me inside when I'd had too much wine at a block party. I knew him. I didn't know this version of him. "You're not very good at hiding things," he said calmly, like commenting on the weather. Ryan didn't want money. He wanted access. Ownership. Proof that I would stay quiet and available. This was no longer about blackmail. This was possession. I got into the car because the alternative felt like detonating my life in public. After that night, control became routine. He had cameras, files, a flash drive, filled with things that made my skin crawl. He sent videos. He whispered threats about our son, about neighborhood gossip, about how easily a single group text could destroy everything. Fear became my shadow. Sleep abandoned me. I lost weight. Ethan began to look at me differently, concern giving way to suspicion. One night, he asked softly if I was still in love with him. I lied again. And when he kissed my head and promised to carry whatever weight I couldn't, something inside me broke beyond repair. Survival, however, has a way of sharpening people. I started learning quietly, digging into Ryan's past. A restraining order from an ex, whispers of harassment. A pattern of moving towns when things got uncomfortable. With help from a college friend in digital forensics, we examined the files. What we found was worse than I imagined. I wasn't alone. Ryan had a system. Women cataloged. Footage archived. Conversations edited. This wasn't opportunism. It was predation. I stopped responding. I let his arrogance make him careless. When he confronted me at a neighborhood barbecue, red-faced and reckless, I met him with calm. Then I sent the files anonymously. To an ex-wife. To HR. To women who didn't know they'd been recorded. The fallout was swift. Ryan lost his job. His family disappeared overnight. The neighborhood filled in the gaps with rumors. Weeks later, Ethan found a buried message on my iPad. He read it. Then he left. For 3 days, the house felt hollowed out. On the 4th, he returned, grief etched into his face. He said he believed I'd been threatened. He said he thought I'd been used. But he couldn't unknow the betrayal. He packed a bag and went to his brother's. Now I sit on our porch while life continues around me. Lawnmowers hum. Children laugh. And I count the echoes. I tell myself I protected my family. But the empty space beside me is proof of what one night costs. If you think one mistake can be contained, remember this. Secrets breathe. And sometimes, they come back for blood. If you stayed until the end, thank you. And if you haven't already, subscribe. Some stories don't end cleanly. They just teach us how fragile safety really is.